Uma produção.
Is that a podium, boys? Is that a podium? That's a podium.
Last place at the end of lap one comes home to win.
What the is this guy doing? Well, I just want to say you're an absolute legend. Holy mac and cheese balls. That's another podium.
That was stupid from whoever was at the front. They want to kill us or what?
Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
Olá, sejam muito bem-vindos a mais um episódio do Domingos. Hoje comigo tenho engenheiro João Ginete.
Ora viva.
E não temos Beatriz. Não temos Beatriz e como tal tivemos que ir buscar um convidado e foi difícil, João. Tivemos que ir ao estrangeiro. Não estava fácil encontrar ninguém, né?
Corremos Portugal de les a les. Fomos da Guarda até Meixoalha Grande.
Que é ali, que é a outra ponta.
Que é onde é o autódromo do Algarve. E não encontramos ninguém que falasse a língua de Camões para substituir a Beatriz, portanto...
Nem no Algarve encontramos ninguém que...
Não há ninguém que fale a língua de Camões. É só holandeses, alemães e bifes.
E então, João, quem é que temos hoje aqui para falar sobre o Grande Prémio do México, que faço já, enfim, a nota que foi um bocejo daqueles bem grandes.
Então, temos... se calhar vamos para inglês já, não? E apresentamos o rapaz em inglês.
Vamos falar em inglês o resto deste episódio, está bem, amigos?
Our guest today is Brrrake. That's his stage name. His
first name. When you say it like that.
Surname Ake.
Wow.
His legal name, I believe it to be Blake Hinsey. Hi, Blake.
How's it going, João, Tiago?
All good.
So Blake does a pretty good job of saying my name for a non-Portuguese speaker, I have to say.
Not bad.
Better than most.
I've dabbled. I've dabbled.
In a nutshell, Blake was a performance engineer for two Formula One teams, Force India, which is now Aston Martin, and then Red Bull, which is now Red Bull. I believe. Did you not engineer both current Red Bull drivers? Just one of them happened to be at Force India.
Yeah, I was Checo's performance engineer when he joined Force India, and then in 2015 I joined Red Bull.
You got stolen.
Across
Oxfordshire, the Oxfordshire border.
I have two questions here for Blake. So first one is, did they call you before hiring Pérez to ask your opinion?
No, nobody asked. They knew he was a solid driver. And
okay. Then second
because
question
he was still there at the time.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Second question will be, what is a performance engineer?
That's a really good question because people don't really hear about the performance engineer too much. They're on the sidelines a little bit. Like they're at the track, they're at every race, but you don't necessarily hear from them very often. The performance engineer, in short, works directly with the race engineer and driver to get the most out of the performance on the car every weekend. During the factory, when they're not at the race, they have some other jobs, but for the most part, a lot of the time when you hear the driver and engineer communicating, if the engineer is giving the driver some information on where to go faster, maybe try this with your brake balance or whatever else, a lot of that information will be coming from the performance engineer. So the performance engineer looks after lots of the details. The race engineer looks over the bigger picture, the setup, communicating with the driver, and discussing strategy with the strategist. So a bit of a separation of work, but the race engineer and performance engineer do very similar things.
Did you know this, João?
No, I just learned that.
I think he knows that one.
Is it fair to say that in F1, the race engineer is kind of a bit like Capcom in kind of the space missions, where he kind of puts all the information together and then kind of filters it down to a 5-word sentence to pass on to the driver?
100%.
And then,
but at the same time, the performance engineer also needs to be aware that when you're trying to give a message to your race engineer, there's a lot of radio traffic and intercom traffic that the race engineer is dealing with. So one of the main goals is to be clear, be concise, and avoid having to avoid misspeaking effectively. So, if I see something in the data and I need to tell my race engineer, we have a brake problem. If I see a brake problem, I'm not just going to go, there's a brake problem. If I see a brake problem, like, okay, is it actually a problem? Check one or two more things, give it a second, and then tell the engineer a very concise message. We have this issue with the brakes, and offer some solutions for him so that he can communicate effectively with the driver.
Nice.
Short, concise. It's the name of the game.
So obviously at some point, Blake decided he didn't want to race anymore. He was factory based for a couple of years, and then he decided that was it. That was him done with race cars. And now he is I think the technical term is a content creator. Is that what the technical term is?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it. It sounds like so weird when you say that out loud. I'm like, yeah, I'm a content creator, but that's so. Yeah, now I'm focusing on. At first, I thought I was going to do gaming. Gaming is very hard to make it, and I'll be honest, I did not have what it takes, and I didn't have the passion for it. I thought I did, but I didn't.
But when you mean gaming, like iRacing or Call of Duty?
Call of Duty, yeah. I still play some games quite often, but I do them on my stream. But for the most part,
did you have anyone like from Formula One on target when you played Call of Duty? No.
No.
Did you picture someone when you're shooting someone in the face?
No.
I think that's a question.
No, I don't. No shots taken.
But now you've kind of focused a little bit more on F1 content, and it's working pretty well, isn't it?
I think my focus now is, from a content point of view, is 100% Formula One. My live streaming, like I'll play some games every now and then on stream. Escape from Tarkov mainly. Maybe the new Warzone will be good, but yeah, for the most part, I'm focusing 100%. Like I say this, I've said this to you before. Being a good content creator and being on the learning curve is harder than being a Formula One engineer.
Oh wow,
yeah.
Quite a statement.
I think anybody can be a content creator. You could wake up tomorrow, you could pick up your phone, you could start vlogging, you could start making content, you could do short TikTok videos, whatever. And it sounds so bullshit, but actually, it's not luck. There's some luck involved in everything, but it takes a lot of studying.
Hard work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally doing 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't take very much time off for the past 8 months.
Yeah, because you're on Twitch as well, right? And like, for example, on Twitch, you need to be there all the time. If you miss a day or something like that, the algorithm that positions the channels, they really hurt you, right? Something like that.
I don't focus too much on Twitch. I've got a good community. We focus a lot on Formula One watch along content. So I literally just finished watching the Mexican Grand Prix, which I'm really excited to talk about, even though realistically nothing happened. But YouTube is the main focus for me right now. Twitch is fun. I've got a good community to interact with and watch the races and chat about it. And got a lot of people that don't even listen to the broadcast anymore. They just tune into my stream and they'll have the broadcast up to watch the cars, and they're actively participating in the conversation. And that's a really rewarding situation, like having a group of people that are super passionate about F1 and just love talking about it. It's a good departure from definitely from Twitter. Twitter is the toilet of the internet regarding Formula One.
Okay, Dan. With this run, we're set to start this show.
Let's go.
Yep.
Thank
you guys for inviting me, though. I'm really excited, and thank you for doing this podcast in English for me, because if we tried Portuguese, we wouldn't get very far.
No, seriously.
We've actually had I've had a few requests from my friends who don't speak Portuguese to do episodes in English, because they like, we post clips, like about 1 minute clips of our episodes every week, and they see it on my stories, and they hear us laughing, and they're like, I want to know what the hell you're talking about.
Let me involve. Oh my god.
So
we'll have
this is actually a blessing.
Yeah, I'm not always this serious, don't worry.
Yeah, but now they will know this is boring as hell as well.
No, it's not boring.
Not yet.
Okay, and this Grand Prix won't really help, because it was really, really boring.
It was a yawn.
I was way too sober for that race. And you know what's
I spent
worse?
the whole day I spent the whole day drinking wine. I went to Douro and we did like a wine tasting at
João.
midday, and then we just kept drinking all day. So I was right in the mood for this, but it was still too much.
João, every weekend, sorry, not every week, like every year, every time we say like it's Mexican Grand Prix, every time like something happens, we drink a tequila shot. That's what we're going to do. We never do that ever.
Well, but we're doing that this show. Every time something happens in the race, I had a tequila shot, so I had none.
Yeah, well done.
Oh, I see.
Nothing happened. Literally nothing happened.
You know what Portuguese wine I really like that I can't find any other styles that do it is the Vinho Verde. I love that.
Oh.
So nice. So nice on a warm summer day. It's not warm summer day anymore, but
people producing green wine. There's a market opportunity here. I think everyone knows.
Aggressively selling in the Northamptonshire?
Yeah, exactly. Like you could realistically craft Vinho Verde imported straight from Durham. Come on, man. Put it in a can maybe and put it on the shelves. Go on. Marketing genius here. Blake, Tiago, and João.
Let's do it. Screw podcast. Let's just do that. Let's just do it instead.
Oh yeah, it was born here. Always remember. Anyway, so Mexican GP, João. Mexican GP, everyone always talks about air density and so what.
If you watch the coverage in qualifying, and it's Crofty and Ted Kravitz and whatever, just they all get a boner about air density.
Yeah.
It's very high up, so the air is very thin, so everyone's got big wings, but they actually have mods of downforce. It's so exciting.
But it is exciting. It is exciting, except people like you and people like me are spoiled by hearing about it all the time and obsessing over it. At the end of the day, the lack of air molecules do make things very difficult. And there were one team in particular that seemed to struggle with quite a few things in the Grand Prix.
Was it
a little bit of foreshadowing? No.
Oh, Ferrari.
Yeah.
But they struggle with everything.
Yeah,
you can't
I know.
Say they struggled because it was Mexico. I mean, they've struggled in 21 races so far. I think.
No, come on.
In some of those races, they were at least
18.
fast. This one, they were not impressive.
But why? The question is, why do you think, were they managing temperatures? Was that the issue? Because even in qualifying, they were slow. You can't be managing temperatures in qualifying.
They could have had turbo speed issues.
But then how was Bottas quick?
Exactly. Was not the engine, right?
He's got massive nuts.
I mean, there's definitely an element of that. But
this is now officially a hyper technical podcast here with the classic James Hunt answer: big balls. Maybe it was an installation specific. Maybe it wasn't turbo speed. Maybe it was something to do with cooling or something else. Because despite using the same engines, they were not good.
But João, interestingly, whenever that happens, or whenever the car is bad, it seems like Sainz is better than Leclerc. So it's the proof that the car was very bad, right?
That's it.
I've
been saying that for 2 years.
This is slander.
No. For 2 years, I've been saying that if the car's shit, Sainz is fast. If the car's good, Sainz is 3/10 off. And every time it
works. I mean,
the car's a pile of shit. Sainz is faster than Leclerc.
I don't know what's the science of that, but
it's not. We don't need science. We just need more vibes. Vibes are very important. But the air density was interesting because Mercedes tend to thrive, and João being an aerodynamicist, Mercedes tend to thrive this year at lower efficiency circuits. So circuits that don't have a very high drag penalty. They looked pretty good.
But do you think is that Mercedes cars look good, or simply because all the others look bad, so they just are not as affected? So
use Red Bull
better relatively.
Use Red Bull as your reference because they didn't seem to struggle particularly this weekend. I think they were pretty good. Ferrari definitely had some circuit specific things. It looks like because we haven't seen them that far. But if you take Red Bull as your reference, there's no dispute that Mercedes were much closer in the race. Maybe they were suboptimal on their compound choice, but in qualifying, their single lap pace with the biggest, dirtiest, least efficient wings that they can put on the car they come alive.
I think there might be an element of, obviously, if you run less downforce, that means that over the speed range, the cornering speed range, you probably have a kind of a smaller ride height range, and that's been the problem with Mercedes, is that they're very peaky.
Very good point.
And so they, like, the point that I watched an absolutely terrible qualifying side by side between Max and Russell, led by some Portuguese journalists who's clearly never driven a race car in his life, and it was pretty poor. But he did have the good point, which is through the high speed corners, the Mercedes looks pinned, and that's the thing.
It was pinned. It was pinned.
Yeah,
looking at the qualifying data,
when the car is low down, it's in the ride height window. That car is very fast, and that's kind of been their whole development philosophy for the past, I don't know, 10 years, which is stiff low and keep it as narrow as possible. The problem is, because of the bouncing issues they've had this year, they have had to raise the car and to put it away from that optimum. So if you have a little bit less downforce, then that range kind of gets a bit shorter, and you spend more of your lap in that range. And the specificity of this circuit maybe is what has led them to be so competitive. But
very interesting, yeah, because I still feel like they're using quite a bit of their window, though. So I think you're onto something, but there's probably, in short, I think it's multiple things, and
it's more than an explanation.
The quantities of each, maybe even people inside of the team have differing opinions regarding. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it was also interesting that there was a lot of talk about how it might be difficult to turn the tires on because, obviously you don't have as much downforce, so you can't put as much kind of energy into the tires without sliding them. And the track is relatively smooth as well, which didn't help. Yep. But at the end, we'll talk about the race when we get there. But it in terms of the tires, it was a very confusing race. It just looked like, in terms of degradation, all three compounds had pretty much the same. And then there was just like some were quicker than the others, and that was it. You saw kind of people doing soft stints that were as long as people's hard stints and people's medium stints, and there was no noticeable drop off. There was quite a bit of drop off in some people's hard tires after the safety car, because I guess it was quite difficult to get temperatures back in them after the VSC, because if you have a hard compound with not a lot of rubber left and you lose temperature, it's quite difficult to get that back.
Yes.
But other than that, I didn't see anything crazy going on in terms of degradation, even on the soft tire. Like it had Vettel doing almost 40 laps on a set of softs, and they were still pretty happy with them.
Yeah.
So, that's interesting because obviously, I think at some point this season, I was talking to Tom about whatever race it was, and he was telling me, Thomas Max, performance engineer, and he was like, "Yeah, we're pretty convinced that the C2 and the C3 are the same tire."
No,
we've done all of our analysis, and from the numbers, it looks like the same tire. So I don't know. I think Pirelli, there's sometimes just Mario Isola just goes and swaps stickers, the yellow for the red for the white, and just sees if the teams notice.
He's basically he's selling 6 tires he's actually producing 3, selling 6.
Yeah,
that's Pirelli's strategy.
Absolute the perfect combination of Pirelli marketing and engineering and finance all in one. It's the holy trifecta. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the marketing, the engineering. Oh my God, these guys are amazing.
They're genius. I love them.
Like on the F2 side, we have a test coming up where last year they just gave everyone hard tires. And we were wondering if they were actually hard tires or if they were whatever they had left. They just put the white markings on the side and just gave, they're all hard tires.
That's a white sidewall. Don't worry. You have a little...
These hard tires, they're fucking fast, but they only last like 3 laps. Are you sure these are hard tires? It's like, yeah.
It was the batch that came out of the plant in Istanbul. Don't worry. It's just a different batch. Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Mate.
Anyway, guys, so a lot of technicalities, great conversation, also balls. I guess it's time to start talking about this race.
Yeah, let's go.
Free practice. Nothing much to talk about, but Leclerc destroying a Ferrari and some interesting things happening outside of the track. Starting with the Red Bull cost cap.
Bum, bum,
Bum,
bum.
bum, 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 bum.
Like, I've heard you have
What happened?
an unpopular opinion about this.
We have a
Can
decision.
you?
I have a very unpopular
share.
opinion about it. Let me just call Ted Kravitz for an equally unpopular. Oh, wait, no, he doesn't want to talk to me. Right, he's been getting it in the neck this week. But
Yes.
I think I have one of the least. It depends on where you sit on your bias. I will not lie to you. I'm probably more biased than I think I am, and I don't think I'm very biased. That still makes me with some bias. But the rules,
Good logic.
the rules for the cost cap were. Let's keep in mind this is the first season of the cost cap. 1, 2. None of the big teams wanted a cost cap, and if you want a very clear indication that none of the teams wanted a cost cap, none of the big teams, just look at the regulations regarding the penalties for breaching the cost cap. Very open, very minor, very non-committal. You can spend up
they
to...
don't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're just very vague. Yeah.
So that is 100% indicative that none of the teams, the big teams that pull most of the weight, wanted a harsh penalty because they didn't know what was going to happen, because they knew it was going to be a shit fight to police and basically switch from an engineering championship to an accounting championship. That's it. And it was chaos, and it was like I didn't have to do anything to do with it when I was there, so I have no idea what it looks like for them. But I guarantee you the finance department grew substantially, and there's a lot of people doing Excel spreadsheets for a lot of money changing hands, and how do we expense this and that. So the ruling was the FIA said, we believe Red Bull acted in good faith. They submit something substantially over. We feel like, or we interpret this differently than them, so they spent this. But if you had applied the tax credit correctly, you'd be like $400,000 or $500,000 over. So two big things are the cost cap is super difficult to police. They were so, like, everybody intended to be conservative, and Red Bull probably lacked some clarification on this. I don't understand why it took them until 6-8 months after the season was over to check this and be like, oh yeah, that didn't add up, when they should have been checking that stuff with the FIA throughout the season. So it's Red Bull's fault or the FIA's fault. Probably fault lies a bit in both if there was an error and a mistake.
But so bottom line, Hamilton should have been champion, right?
No, I don't. I'm not going to bite. I wouldn't touch that with Joao's. I wouldn't touch that with Joao's.
But the thing is, so first of all, from my understanding, that was like a dry run last season, right? But they kind of did a mock.
I have no idea about that.
Auditing. So that kind of, they had a chance. That's kind of me playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing that you touched on is, I know we talked about it endlessly, so there's no point in going over about it again. It's the fact that you create these regulations, but there's no clear penalties for who contravenes regulations. Like, what's the point in having a regulation?
Correct.
Then? It's like...
You know what? I've got a perfect analogy for that. The engine penalty system. Like, we don't want you to use more than so many engines. Oh, but if you use more than...
plan ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Red Bull planned to breach it. I really genuinely think, I don't think they did intend to breach it. And the FIA have concluded they acted in good faith. A lot of people refer back to the clip of Ross Brawn saying anybody fraudulently breaking the cost cap should be disqualified. People did not understand the very important word in there, fraudulently, like deliberately trying to cheat the system. A lot of people miss that word.
Don't you think that all these things that that Christian mentioned, so the food, we're trying to say, oh, this was a part of the group's budget, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'll be okay with that. Then there was something about the part that didn't get used last season, the RB, where are we at now? 16B, yeah. The RB 16B parts that didn't get used last season, they kind of built it on the heritage department. And then that was not a thing that you were supposed to do.
I have no idea. But there was also something that changed mid-season about how things were counted as well. I've read that in a couple of places. I haven't followed up on that, but there's all
been a
sorts
lot
of
of misinformation.
yeah. There's been so much, and I don't think we'll know. But bottom line, was the penalty fair? Probably 10% on top of winning the championship. So 10% less than that puts you at 63% of baseline. Second place will have what, 75 or 80%?
75,
Yeah, that's really the question. Like, what do you think is the impact that will have on the development of the car?
I think Joao's the best place because in order to know if that impacts you, you need to infer or guess the development rate and know how many runs that equates to.
I mean, the thing is, like, I don't actually know what these runs mean.
The equivalent units or whatever, because it's a combination of computational time and wind on time, and but I think I think people in the teams will know.
They'll probably have an idea, but also it depends on how well you do in terms of your hit rate, because that's the thing. Like, you can use those 40 runs to actually do something, or you could do 40 runs of bullshit and not get any performance out of it. So at the end of the day, it's really difficult to put a number on it. It's a significant setback for sure. And I think it is something that will kind of deter people from kind of doing this or putting themselves at risk of incurring penalties again, which was the intention. And it's something that, it hurts enough, but it's not over the top. I do think, however, that I think I know that there were things being done to kind of financially massage the accounts so that you got away from the cost cap as much as you could.
It's like when you file your taxes. When you file your taxes, you don't say, I would like to pay the most tax this year. Anybody who does that, I don't think anybody's doing that. People are like, right, can I expense this? Can I expense this? Can I expense this to another group? All of the big teams have not only fired personnel or made them redundant, they have also made other groups that do not work full-time or even part-time on Formula One projects so that they can shift not only personnel, but also the expense of what those groups are doing. Because some of those groups used to potentially live inside of your Formula One team. And now they say, these people don't do any work which is expendable to actual Formula One, but we like to have it. So they're going to move those out. All of the teams are massaging their books to make sure that they can get the most expenditure and performance. And if they're not doing that, they're not racing.
Yeah, it's not good enough job.
In any case, Red Bull has a great car. So if anything, this is going to help a bit other cars have more time vis-a-vis what Red Bull has, and maybe we'll have a more balanced competition in the following years. What do you think?
I mean, the system is already in place for that. So Red Bull were already going to have fewer hours than everyone else. And this is just an extra hit on top of that. Which, given how dominant they've been this season, then maybe it will just even things out a little bit more. I found it quite funny that in one of the first races of the cost cap era, they put the finance director, Alistair, through on the podium. And at the time, I looked at that and I was like, oof. Probably wait until the first cost cap goes in to make that move, but it's
too
pretty
soon.
impressive
Too
that
soon.
This guy. I mean, Alistair, he is one of the least kind of, if you think about a traditional motorsport person who's like very driven and very that's going to win races. Alistair's not that.
He's understated. He's subdued.
Yeah, he's very understated,
but methodical.
And suddenly he's like, but he's like on the spotlight. Like, he suddenly runs one of the most important departments in the company because of the cost cap and because of the impact it has on performance.
Does this component, was it a hit or not? And you are the final test to tell me if this money that we spent was good or not. And we need to know, because you're the person that interprets this information.
Because that's how what F1 has turned into. It's like, we've got these bits. They will make the car faster. Is it worth us making it in terms of the cost cap? That's how it is now. When I was in F1, when you were in F1, it was literally
scattergun.
This drawing with an arrow saying "make this." That was the extent of the thought process behind. Like, if soon as you found something that made the car faster, make it immediately.
I'm waiting for the message of Verstappen next race, thanking the accounting department.
Yeah, exactly. Cheers, lads.
For the great
ladies.
car.
Cheers, guys.
And on other news, drivers complain Mexicans are too handsy. What was this?
Was that what Sainz was
I think everyone was complaining. That was a big hoo-ha because they so Liberty has started opening up the paddock a little bit more. They have kind of made paddock passes, VIP passes for people to walk around the paddock on Thursdays and Fridays, a little bit more accessible than they used to be. So there's more people. It's open to more people now. I don't know. I guess when you were at trackside, it was pretty.
There was no
there was
access.
not a lot of people there, right? Yeah, exactly.
There's no access.
So
like you could do pit lane walks, and that was it.
And now the drivers are complaining that there's too many people and that they're getting too close and that they're not respecting their personal space. And that it was worse in Mexico than it's been in different places because, Mexicans are very warm people. They're used to being kind of very touchy-feely, and I guess some drivers didn't appreciate that. I don't know. I feel like F1 has set a bad example in terms of fan access. If you go to Le Mans, you can walk around, the pit lane with everyone working on the cars on the Thursday before the race, on the Friday before the race even. If you go to the US, to like Daytona, you're at the Daytona 500, you are sitting on the racetrack half an hour before the race starts. Yeah. It's that ridiculous. Like and all the cars are lined up and you can go check them out. And,
that's nuts.
It's incredible. And I mean, I know maybe go on.
For as uninteresting as the race was today, it's surprising that people are so excited about it. Come on,
crazy.
Sometimes it's good.
Everyone was mad. Everyone was mad about Checo. Like all the Mexican fans were completely losing it as soon as Checo overtook.
I just always love watching Papa Pérez.
Yeah,
he's the best.
Antonio
he's the
best.
Oh my god,
he's such a character. But yeah, so the story is that baby Liberty is taken a bit too big a step in one go to kind of allow fans into the paddock, and drivers are getting a little bit nervous about
understandably
too much contact with the fans. So I think it's a process that will probably have to go bit by bit rather than just opening.
Alonso didn't seem to be bothered though. Alonso really seemed having a great time though during all the weekend. I don't know if you saw him taking some selfies and. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it affected some drivers more than others, and I kind of think that F1 should go in that direction, but I also understand the driver's side that maybe it needs to be a bit more gradual, and that mostly people need to be kind of educated to have a little bit of restraint and respect for the driver's kind of personal space. Because that's the other thing. The popularity F1 has got in the past couple of years has attracted a lot of people that maybe are not kind of your classic motorsport fans. That, it's a bit like having a football game and allowing everyone to go shake the players' hands before the start of the match. Everyone knows how that would end up. It would end up in
that would be a great idea.
It would be a complete
that would
shit
go
show.
very well.
That would not work.
Yeah. So there's a process to it, and I kind of understand both sides.
Okay, so let me take that that sentence. That did not work, or that wouldn't work, which was exactly what happened to the Ferraris in the quali, which already talked a bit about it. Bottas on fire with the same engine. We already discussed this. Technicalities and balls explained this. Do you want to add anything? Not really.
Not really. I think Ferrari have seen they need to find a reset button for next season because they seem to be dead inside. Everyone in that organization seems to be dead inside, and they have the tools. They had a very fast car to start the season. They have one of the fastest drivers on the grid, I think, in Leclerc, and I think they can do very well next season if they just kind of take the time to regroup, reset, and come prepared to.
This is a very weird championship. It's a very weird championship.
So
we start the season by thinking that we'll have a very competitive one. Ferrari looked great. Ferrari looked like at some point that this was going to their side, and it's just the most dominant Verstappen. In the entire history of the championship with 14 wins in a single year. And it's really difficult to understand this, at least for me.
Same.
That I don't understand anything about this. So
yeah, I mean, if after Imola you told the Red Bull boys that they were going to win 14 races this season, they'll tell you you're insane.
No way.
We
were talking about reliability issues in the beginning of the year about Red Bulls. I don't know if you remember.
Max's
They had
quote was,
reliability issues.
"I don't want to talk about the championship at all. I just would like to finish a race." Was a quote. It's almost word for word.
Oh yeah, that was Bahrain, or what was the race after Bahrain? Jeddah.
I think that was after Melbourne.
Ah, okay. Oh yeah, they had that as well.
It was like what, race
So-
4 or something?
Yeah, yeah. Up until Imola, we had a championship, and then after that, it was game over.
And the meantime, Mercedes seems like they're doing much better, and they almost caught a pole today.
Yeah, Mercedes, as we discussed, they were closer than the middle season. They topped FP3. They won 2 at FP3 actually, and we spent the whole of qualifying just seeing Merck setting purple sectors and going, "Ooh, this is going to be it. This is going to be it." And
They got a little bit excited from FP3 though, because they looked like, I don't know what they were doing. Maybe they ran extra low fuel so they could get a handle on what the car would behave like at super low fuel. But nobody in qualifying did the same pace as Mercedes did in free practice 3 until Q2. Nobody. So people were probably a little bit more excited than they should have been. But at the same time, I would argue that they should be excited considering how close the Mercedes was to the front. But they did a glory run in P3 because nobody went even close to that lap time until Q2. That's
I mean, there's been an element of the kind of the F1 media, which is mostly British, getting a boner every time Mercedes gets anywhere near the top, because it's like,
I would be too though. If I was,
that
if I was a super Mercedes fan, which I'm not, but if I was, I do appreciate them and I respect them. But if I was a super Mercedes fan, I'd be like, come on, when is the good times happening? Because it's been a whole, last season, what the hell? This season, terrible for the team. And then to see them coming close to the front, I would,
I agree 100%, but I just don't think that Crofty and Brundle and those guys should be Mercedes fans, because 8 of the 10 F1 teams are based in the UK, so they all deserve a bit of love from the mainstream F1 media. But obviously, it's Lewis, and I understand.
It's the driver, exactly.
Yeah, it's fair enough. And Russell as well is a very well, like, there's 2 Brits and all the rest of it. But Russell almost had pole. He felt like he left pole on the table. He made a small mistake that ended up costing him that, maybe. Because if you put his sectors together, he's just 8 thousandths off, so he just needs to find 8 thousandths in that last sector.
Oh, it was that close, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
That his ideal was 8 thousandths off pole. Verstappen was the only guy who put his lap together, which is, again, it's kind of a testament of the driver he's become. He's for his age, he's basically a very mature F1 driver at this point. He makes very few mistakes, puts laps together when it's difficult.
I would arguably say, but he did do his fair share of mistakes, as they all do. But that's probably formed the foundation of all of the negative reinforcement he's had on what he needs to do to have such a dominant season.
No, absolutely. He's made a lot of mistakes in the past few years, but people were quite harsh on him, which he took on a positive way. Whereas I felt like Lewis, at the similar stage of his career, took a lot longer to get to the level where he was, operating. Like, don't get me wrong, Lewis, when he was, in his championship runs, was operating at an unbelievable level where he made very few mistakes and he was very, very strong. But that was these seasons at McLaren where, you remember Thiago being a diehard McLaren fan, and I was there, where every time he made a mistake, it was, he always kind of hit out at the team or at Massa or at the racer.
Hamilton seemed like he always had to be more loved.
He needed babysitting.
Than Verstappen. Verstappen seems like he reacts with, if you're hard on him, he gets better. And Hamilton never seemed to work that way. They can perform at top level, but they seem like they're ignited in a different way.
Yeah.
Do you think that Max lacked a tough love and Lewis needs a bit more massaging? Is that fair to say?
It's hard to say. Maybe like Lewis does the thing where he'll get down and be obviously down, like, and then his engineers will come on, man, let's go. And then they'll get it. And then sometimes Max goes pissed off and Lewis goes sad. It seems like. But Lewis, we've seen Lewis also very critical as well. And I think that's okay to do, because that just means that the drivers want the most out of it. And it's a very human thing.
Yeah, and that he cares and he's still motivated somehow, you know, he didn't give up.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
not at all.
So we end up then with Verstappen with pole position, then Russell, Hamilton, Pérez, Sainz, Bottas, and Leclerc. Bottas between Sainz and Leclerc, and we were ready for the race. João, were you really looking forward to see a start where Russell was able, or in theory, hypothetically speaking, able to overtake Verstappen and then do what? Like, I don't even think like if Russell will be able to do that, Verstappen probably will easily overtake him. I don't know. Like these races are becoming very boring. I don't know what really to expect.
I mean, yes, although I'd argue that the fact that at the end of the day, Verstappen didn't really pull away from Lewis in that first stint, I think we actually would have had a race in our hands. The problem is that, first of all, at the start, the softs would always have a start performance benefit over the mediums.
Yeah, that's a good point, João, that you bring up the tires. So bear in mind, Russell and Hamilton start on medium tires, Verstappen and Pérez on soft. When you saw this at the beginning, who do you think had the right strategy? Because, I mean, Verstappen and Pérez apparently will go for a two-stop strategy.
Yeah, I mean, we went to the race thinking, and everyone was saying, this is a two-stop strategy. End of.
Sure.
And so you look at the grid and you think, ooh, maybe they're going to try a one-stopper, go medium hard, and just go one stop to the end. And then it turns out you could just start in the softs and still do a one-stop race. So it didn't really matter. And so...
The question was one stop for sure. The question was, is it a one stop or not? The whole day. From the moment you line up on the grid, you think medium start, one stop. You weren't even thinking that the soft race start was going to be one stop.
No, and then for me, the funny thing was that one of the guys that had the better races was Danny Rick, coming from nowhere to finish P7. On a one-stop starting on mediums, which that to me was really cool.
Yeah.
That was very smart from McLaren, because they saw Vettel going very long on the softs, and then they thought, hold on, if the softs can do this, we just need to stretch for another 5-6 laps.
Yeah. Overcut
and
them.
then we can flip this around.
Yeah, as long as the pace isn't dropping, you can go longer.
Yeah, precisely.
And so, this brings me to the question, João. Russell seemed like he wanted to do this at some point.
Yes.
And what the hell was Mercedes thinking? Because Russell maybe really had a chance here to win this race. Don't you think? I don't
think he quite had
look
a
at
chance to win it.
Ricardo did.
Sure. I don't think so. I think if you look at their race and you look at their tire performance and the pace offset between the compounds, I think if flat out race for race, if Mercedes mirrored Red Bull's strategy or did the exact same strategy, they still would have finished 5 to 10 seconds ahead of them. Like the Mercedes pace is not there today. And unless Red Bull did a suboptimal strategy, there's no way that Mercedes would have beat them outright. If the Red Bull and Mercedes had swapped strategies, it's hard to say, because I feel like this highlights one of the beautiful things about race strategy is the amount of uncertainty in the race strategy. It's never certain. You never know what's going to happen. So the fact that Mercedes didn't know, but they had a hunch that we'll try and make the one stop work. Nobody, they didn't even get free practice too. They were doing test compounds. So a crappy FP1 and an FP3 getting through all sorts of tires. Strategy confidence this weekend, probably very low.
Yeah.
So,
but at the same time, it became kind of Mercedes. I think the critical bit here is that Mercedes, by choosing to start on the mediums, they played their hand before the race started. Red Bull knew what they were doing, and so Red Bull then went, okay.
They could have Ricardo'd it though.
They could have, but they clearly lacked. I think with Lewis, they probably, with the lead car, that would have been too risky a strategy. With Russell, that would have been worth it, and then maybe we would have finished on the podium.
Yeah. Okay.
but I mean, he could have raced it with Lewis, I guess, but I still think that at the end you lacked ultimate car performance to do that.
Agreed.
But I think
as much as I wanted to hope that they had a chance to win, to see Max and Lewis and Checo and Russell all fighting for the top step of the podium, as much as I wanted to see it, as soon as the race had started, the only way it was going to happen was on strategy. And with pure hindsight, the Red Bull had the better strategy today.
Yeah, and I think that could have been a race in our hands if Red Bull had to stop twice, and then it would have been a good race. So you only need a little bit more degradation for that to have been the case. But yeah, in the end, we just have Red Bull reading the gaps and seeing, okay, it doesn't seem like we need to stop. The gap's not really getting much smaller. We keeping these 10 seconds. Yeah. And it became a pretty boring race, to be honest.
Yeah. I was hoping to see them struggle and have to do a 2-stop and come through. But like I want to see them on the same strategy, wheel to wheel, for multiple laps, not just that one when you have all differing strategy and you're coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really at the beginning, and then Pérez making the overtake on Russell, and it was pretty much the action that we got in the front of the race. In the back, João, as you were saying, Ricardo did a pretty interesting race, which sounds even weird to say it out loud. I mean, João dreams. Blake, you're not understanding. João dreams a lot about this, you know. He's like, every weekend, every time we talk, it seems like a different race from everyone on Ricardo, you know. Like, Ricardo does amazing things that only João sees.
True.
But today, actually, it was brilliant. João, what happened? Do you want to enlighten us?
I think he had a pretty messy race. I think McLaren were the stars of the show with what they did on strategy. They took a calculated gamble by reading what was happening with the other cars, and it paid off massively. Ricardo almost threw it away by crashing into Yuki on the first lap of new softs against knackered Harms.
Somebody in my stream said they sent him to the shadow realm. He punched a hole in the side of his car, man.
It was so bad. It was so clumsy. Like, that was never gonna stick. I don't know what he was thinking, but it was just terrible. And
any argument defending him that 10 seconds was too much and like not even a penalty? I mean, João, go for it.
No, I think 10 seconds was probably fair.
Oh, come on.
No?
You could just say, like, no way. Like, you know, Tsubasa should have given him space, you know?
How much did Russell get in Austin? Is it 5 or 10? It was 5, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Russell for
so
T-boning.
Yeah, so I think that should have been 10 as well last week. And I think this was probably about right.
Yeah, I mean, when you take a car out of a race, I feel like last week it was a little bit of both of them. Like, it's a lap one thing, you know, it wasn't super malicious. But like Russell, to be fair, Russell did not have a chance in hell of keeping that car on the track. With the lockup in the line that he took, that was more similar to what Gasly did during the race.
Yeah.
Against to Stroll.
Yeah.
Yes,
you know, you lock up and you don't have a chance of keeping the car on the track, and Gasly actually went off the track. But you know, the same Russell on signs in Texas. I think Russell was probably going to use all the track, and he was a passenger. He had no option to not use all the track, and there happened to be a car there because it's lap 1. It was a misjudgment in mine.
He could have braked earlier
and not locked up.
That was an option. Yeah,
that was optional. No, all right. I'll stop playing the victim for George.
That was, you know, he had his both feet were functional at that time.
Defending Russell here. I mean, he was also not expecting Sainz to try to recover the position. You know, I mean, what was Sainz trying to do there? Like, fight back? He should have stay behind.
At the same time, I think Tsunoda also did a bit of a weird, like, he didn't quite hit the apex of that corner. He opened the door
and then shut it. Yeah,
but it was a bit clumsy from both of them. But Ricardo had such a tire advantage. Just wait another half lap.
Tsunoda simply never thought for a single second that Ricardo tried to put the car there.
But he did open the door though, so that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like if he had hit the apex, then it was clearly his corner and whatever. But he
On
didn't.
the overtaking guidelines that they've been applying this season, which we haven't talked about much in a while because nobody's been fucking overtaking anyone. He did not have a significant portion of his car alongside.
That's true.
He ended up in Tsunoda's side pod, and thus his car entered the Shadow Realm. Yuki escaped the Shadow Realm after he returned the car, but upon the pit stop, the mechanics wheeled the car back into the Shadow Realm.
Yeah. They
Anyway,
were like,
after that,
no.
question for you two, engineers. Do you think that Ricardo was informed of the penalty at this point, or his team
of
just
course.
left him completely on the blind?
No.
They were managing that gap. They're like, we need to make sure that if you can pull this gap out, you will make enough lap time that you do not finish behind anyone. And he beautifully cleared. Was it Gasly? Ocon by 11 seconds at the end.
Yeah.
I think it was a bit like a couple of years ago when he was at Renault. He got a penalty for taking someone out, something similar. And his engineer informed him, just went, that was my bad. I'll just drive faster. And actually, someone went through the data like you do now, Blake, a lot. And they actually compared his laps before and after.
Whoa, get it.
And he just drove faster. He just drove faster and he made up the 5 seconds and he kept the position.
Go on, lad.
Yeah, but that was when Ricardo was highly motivated.
Was good.
The thing
that's
is,
when it was,
everything goes terrible for him. So maybe, psychologically, knowing
not happy
that
to
Today did the same. Today did the same. He did a pretty good job, I felt. He after he crashed into Tsunoda, he realized, hold on, I think I've done this overtaking thing before. I think I know how to do it. Let me have a go. And then after that, all the overtakes he did were super clean, and then he got it done.
Yeah.
When he could, with no mistakes, no unnecessary risks.
I enjoyed that.
He did a great race after that. It was very good.
I do wish that we got a little bit more onboard time with the broadcasts from Daniel.
Yeah. We were too busy showing Max being on his own in P1 or Lewis on his own P2 or
he's
Russell
catching
on
him.
his
He's
own.
10 seconds. 10 and a half seconds.
9.
it was amazing. It was
9.5. Oh, back to 10.
Best overtake was over Alonso.
I must have missed it.
So painful. Yeah.
Alonso.
His car basically,
That's
that GP2 engine came back.
I think whoever was behind him took a piston to his helmet because that thing was just like...
I reckon
bits
Alonso
everywhere.
was so pissed off that he just pulled the clutch and revved the shit out of it until it blew up going into the stadium or into turn 1. Yeah. Take that.
He was not happy. I mean, even before that problem, you could tell there was something wrong, and he was.
Is Alpine losing the 4th place with this engine problems? What do you think, guys?
Man, no one wants to drive for Alpine right now because of this. And
the Renault engine is it's a high performance engine, but it's the least reliable one.
Yeah. Which is crazy to say this because a few years ago the Renault
miss Honda.
engine is the only thing, and the reliability was still rubbish. So I guess at least the performance is better.
Absolutely, yeah. They've put performance into it without changing the reliability, so they can now take penalties and still compete for points quite well.
Yeah. But McLaren had a solid result in the end with 7th and 9th, with in a race where the qualifying was very, very.
It was, and it's only 7 points behind Alpine now. So I mean, 2 races to go, and I still believe in the championship as well.
Still happening, Tiago. You can still win it.
For next year, we're already counting for next year. The points that we're doing now are already added for next year.
So it's a 2-year champion. It's like a super season, like in WEC.
Do you know what's sad? Probably if you add the 2 seasons, it wouldn't be enough to be champion still.
Anyway,
one day McLaren will be back. They will call you again, João. You have no idea. They will call you again.
I don't see them coming back for a while. Whatever they've been doing for a while has not been.
Why so, Blake? That's a very intense topic here in our podcast. João doesn't really understand much about this. I keep telling McLaren will be back, but please, Blake, share with us your knowledge.
I don't have any skin in the game, but considering technically that team and the resource they have, the resource that I perceive they have, because I know very little about their team, but they're not a small place. What are they doing? How are they not competing with the likes of 2012? And then since then they made some bad decisions, and it's been
it's a very corporate company. It's a very corporate engineering operation, which means that there's too many cooks in the kitchen. There's too many layers of management. I'm not sure if it's still like that, but it was like that when I was there. And eventually it just brings a lot of inertia to what you're doing, which you can't have.
And you need flexibility. Red Bull in the past, having been there, are very easy to take something, uproot it, and turn it around. They will literally stop the thing dead in its tracks if they think there's something else to do. And if you take another comparison, you have Mercedes, who I perceive to be this very methodical machine that's very well refined. You've got lots of excellent players controlling the pieces, and they just happen this year to have missed on a couple fronts, unfortunately, the engine and the chassis as a whole. It seems like aerodynamically or whatever aspect, but for the longest time they've been this methodical machine that their methods are great, their people are strong, they have good operations, they don't lose points. McLaren don't seem to be losing points so much, but they, for the life of them, for the last couple of years, since 10 years ago, haven't been able to design a fast car.
And then you have Ferrari that they just put the sticker, of the horse in front of the car, and somehow it races. It's unbelievable. They don't do anything. They put the sticker, boom, done.
Easy. It's a Fiat 500, really, isn't it? It felt like it this weekend. Holy shit.
Yep, that was the pace we're going at. Fiat 500 hybrid.
Dude,
so
that hurt to watch. I feel for Ferrari fans.
Too bad. It's just another weekend for Ferrari and nothing new there. Even though I did not hear any radio communication about Plan F or nothing like that.
There was a Plan C.
No,
it was very smooth.
Yeah.
Charlie,
it was very smooth.
Only Plan Charlie. No Plan
Charlie.
R for retire the thing.
It was good. It was a smooth race for Ferrari. I mean, I think
Plan
that they
H
knew where they were.
home.
So
Sad?
they knew where they were.
Plan H to go home.
Yeah.
Anyway, before going home, so Russell put some final tires for the fastest lap, which he did.
Yeah, he was moaning about the tires. I mean, both Mercs were moaning that they were on the wrong tire, but they were like, "Yeah, you can just stop and lose 30 seconds and be on the right tire, but then you'll be nowhere." So, up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for them. I truly feel that Mercedes
Slip of the tongue
the right strategy, and
there.
then in the middle of throws, were like, "Wait, we were the ones that are right. What happened? This is totally wrong. We were right. This made sense." There was some communication.
Hindsight is a beautiful thing. You always go into the race thinking that you've got the right one, and then
there was a communication of the race engineer to Russell saying something like, "Listen, they are going to stop for sure." Because they will have to put 20 laps on top of this thing that you did, which is not possible. They will have to stop.
What? So what? Yeah.
And no,
it did not happen. My favorite ones were after the safety car. He was like, "Why did we not stop? My tires are gone." And he was like, "Well, then Checo's tires must be more gone because they're softer." And it's like, well, no, that they weren't. Turns out. But that's the thing. These tires can be very, very strange. Like what you expect to happen with them doesn't always happen. And I guess
they
that's
didn't explode
racing.
this year. I'm very disappointed.
Oh my god! Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
It felt like we had this running joke that last season that the race direction had an exploding rear left button just to spice up the race. Like they used it in Baku. They used it in other points in the season. Though, like this. To race a bit though. I think
Michael Masi took the button with him. Yeah.
Speaking of Michael Masi, I heard a rumor that Eduardo was not going to do any more races and that he's kind of been like removed from the rotation.
Oh really?
After the Japan incident with the truck being in the middle of the road. I think it was obviously it didn't look great. But putting the blame solely on on one race director for that, I think is you probably just need better processes and better people to support him.
Michael Massey, is that you?
Yeah, hold on, Michael. Yeah, no, but like seriously, that's been a recurring theme, and I think it's become even more apparent to us that the FIA does not have sufficient resources to do the job. Like the stuff that was happening last year, this year, it's like these are avoidable things with the right processes and plans. Like teams, okay, Ferrari's fucking it up a lot, but other teams are quite good.
And I'm sorry, Blake, on that,
how did you...
João, sorry, just on that Blake was just saying lack of resources and what the hell is doing the race, the race director and everyone else around. We need to go back to what happened last week because Alonso got the 7th place back.
Yeah, as expected.
That was chaos.
I mean, this is like insane this year. Like, what is wrong with all these decisions that take forever to be decided, and no one really understands, and the incoherence of them. I'm really lost here.
I mean, that was messy as anything. I mean, so we didn't give a black and orange flag, and then he gets into the race and penalize him for something that, unless he wasn't informed and they've disobeyed. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any sense. Like you're putting a penalty on someone for not voluntarily retiring the car with damage when you hadn't. Like it's stupid.
Nobody's doing that shit, man. Like, you tell me it's like throw me that meatball flag, throw me the Kevin Magnussen flag, and I'll pull this shit over. Until you show me the Kevin Magnussen meatballs, I'm not doing it.
And then you show me the Danish meatballs. I'm not doing it. And then Haas lodged a protest 24 minutes late, and they're like, "Oh, that's close enough to have 54 minutes or 30. It's pretty much the same. So let's
just flag the race. At least they didn't have what's his name from the US Grand Prix flagging that race. The dude was on
Tim Cook
power saving
Tim
mode.
Cook was
oh my god!
Bad. Yeah, he was on low battery mode for sure. He was
the happiness,
energy.
The happiness
Clearly
of that
that's
man.
Someone who has way too much money to care about waving a flag. But yeah, I mean, in the end, the FIA, there was some story about Haas asking race direction when the deadline was, and that's the reason why they missed the deadline, because they were told the wrong deadline. I mean, just read the rules. Like, that's your job. Don't blame the race direction for that. They're not like customer support. You didn't ring them to ask, what the deadline is. Like, just fucking read the rules, you idiots.
Yeah. I get it, man.
Anyway.
That's nuts. That is actually nuts.
Yeah, anyway, it was messy.
I think as to close that FIA thing off, I think all the fans in the entire sport would very much appreciate transparency and consistency. But at the same time, it's a difficult sport, and it's complicated, and it's not all the decisions are black and white. So I'm critical of them very often, but you gotta say it's not easy. But some of the stuff that they have fucked up has been like, how have you let that happen when you have a team of people to look after this and ensure that these things do not happen?
Yeah, they have not put themselves in great light. But to be honest, if you know about the stuff that went on in the past, like in the background, this is
easy.
There's been a lot of.
This is just a result of the growth.
Visibility.
Yeah, it's just the growth of the popularity of the sport. Because I mean, anyone can tell you the story of Senna losing a championship by decision of a French person. Anyway, and this was the end of Mexican Grand Prix. Something else that very interesting happened that no one knows. I don't know if you noticed it, João, but the Formula One theme for this weekend was very different with some mariachi. Songs.
Yeah. They had the mariachi band playing the theme tune of F1.
It was so good.
That was classic.
They should do, every event should have its local variety of the theme tune.
Please. For me, it was
the country what was that country singer that was with Ricardo walking in with the horse? That guy just singing the anthem, just him and his guitar.
João, for me, it's
and like some typical country lyric.
The flute version, the flute version on YouTube. The
Yes, that was
anthem
very
played
good.
with the flute. For me, that's the best one. For me, that will be that one every single weekend. Played with the flute. If you don't know what I'm talking about,
Very nice.
just Google it. And
the
be
sad,
amazed.
the sad flute.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's how it
exactly.
feels. Yeah.
And that's it. So, how are the standings, João? I'm the one saying the standings this episode, right? Because Beatriz is not here to tell us the standings, correct?
Right? Did she
that-
not
I
want to
can also
join
do
because
it.
I'm here?
I'm sure.
Yeah, I think she
Yes,
has like
she
some
said, "I
personal
don't like
issues
Blake."
with you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought she didn't like me. So
Yes.
She stated that.
okay, I'll remember that.
So as we're used to hearing, in first place for now, we still have Max Verstappen with 416 points. He can still lose
Is
it.
he beating Ferrari
In
yet
second
on
place,
his
we
own?
have
No.
Great question. 416, 487. Now he still needs 70 points.
Is he
71
beating
points.
Mercedes?
So, sadly.
No, he's beating
yes.
Alpine.
Okay.
Oh, no. He's beating Alpine. But he might beat Mercedes. He doesn't have much to go. He has 30 points to go on that. So
I guess that's
it
the
could
championship he's
beat
doing now,
Mercedes.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, if he wins both races, he'll probably beat Mercedes. So, anyway.
Blimey.
Second place, Checo Pérez with 280 points. Third place, Charles Leclerc with 275.
There was a change
George
here
Russell
again, João.
fourth with
So
231.
Perez overtook
Yes,
Leclerc.
Pérez overtakes Leclerc again. Yep. Russell and Hamilton are next. Then Carlos Sainz with 212.
Also
Lando
a change
Norris with
here as well.
111.
Hamilton overtook Sainz,
Did he?
which is shocking.
Oh
wow.
my God! Get in there,
Yep.
Lewis. Get in there, Lewis. I don't know where Bono wants him to get into, but I don't want to hear any more about that story. But get in there, Lewis.
He's getting somewhere, you know. He's getting in somewhere.
Get
He's
somewhere.
getting into something. No one knows what.
He's going to get into trouble if we keep
talking.
talking about this.
Yeah, people
on,
have been
João.
cancelled for less.
God.
But I mean, Carlos is we've talked about him, and I'm not even remotely surprised that he has underperformed the season.
Give him another bad
Yeah.
car, and you will see him overtake Leclerc
Yeah,
until the end of the
exactly.
season.
Precisely. That's
Easy.
it. Lando's doing an awesome job with 111 points in P7 in front of both Alpines of Esteban Ocon.
This is a
and
miracle.
Fernando
This is a
Alonso.
miracle.
Magic Alonso.
Yeah.
Seriously.
When's the last time a teammate beat Alonso? Was it Lewis?
Really?
I don't know. Well, I'll look it up later.
Uh,
You keep doing
Could
the
have been.
No, you're probably right.
I'm just done. It's Valtteri Bottas is P10, so that's all.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
ignore
top
the
10.
rest.
Yeah, the rest of them are
Um,
shitters anyway.
Latifi still on 20th.
Latifi is still P20 on a 20 driver championship.
On 22,
With the
on
same points
22
as
drivers.
21st, who's De Vries.
Yeah.
And Hulkenberg at
Yeah,
0.
De Vries is still tied with Latifi with 2 points.
Oof. Big oofs, man.
I mean, Alonso, I think, clearly the amount of DNFs he's had this season from the points is just plain absurd. He probably would be in front of Norris if he hadn't had so many DNFs. So, but yeah, it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad.
But you're
GP2
probably
engine,
right.
GP2
Like
engine.
last time he was behind a teammate was Alonso. Was Hamilton. I can't think of anyone else.
The Dark Lord has fallen.
Oh wow!
Magic Alonso.
I mean, it could be maybe Nelson UPK in 2008.
Van
Oh
Dorn.
no, sorry, he had a crash in Singapore, and so he
Only because of that. Only because of that.
Singapore took him out of the title.
Van Dorn maybe.
No, just immediately no.
Too painful, right?
Ouch. He destroyed that kid.
He destroyed like everything on that kid.
Yeah, that and McLaren was completely obliterated from the inside by Alonso, and
Yeah, dude. He decimated that
is now slowly
organization.
being rebuilt.
He's probably put them back
I mean, it
like
was
5
It
years.
was already bad, but
He destroyed a strategic partnership with Honda. He destroyed the
it was
entire
already not
plan
good
of
to start
everything.
with. But
Yeah.
yes,
So yeah, like
this is true.
Then does that mean that Ocon is a great driver?
Very true. Very true.
João? Are you going to admit Ocon is a great driver?
No.
He's beating Alonso.
No.
It's like a
What?
beast.
All right.
No.
If Lance destroys Magic Alonso next year, it's done.
I think so.
Imagine.
I mean, I've bet a few things in this podcast, and I'm going to bet my left pinky that that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I doubt it,
Oh,
man.
wow. That will be insane.
Okay, on the constructors, we have Red Bull in first with 696 points, Ferrari in second with 487, Mercedes in third with 447, which means that it's still theoretically possible for Ferrari to lose that second place, but I think very unlikely. Alpine fourth with 153, McLaren fifth with 146, so only 7 points behind. So that fight is very much still
Alive.
ongoing for the last two races. Something that's still going is the fight between Alfa Romeo and Aston Martin for P6. 53 points for Alfa Romeo, 49 for Aston Martin, so only 4 points difference there. And also between P8 and P9, Haas and AlphaTauri, only 1 point separating those two. 36 for Haas, 35 for AlphaTauri. Williams are still P last in 8 and will remain so.
Williams is like Red Bull, no one can remotely touch them.
Yeah.
Touch them.
Yeah, nobody wants to touch that.
Yeah.
Yikes.
They are the best out there.
It's got the herps.
Yeah.
Williams have got the herps and no one wants to touch them.
Oh my god.
It's that girl at the party that you're trying to dodge because you know it's like, nope, this is gonna end badly.
Who, Williams or Red Bull?
Yeah.
Williams. Yeah, with it. Yeah.
Williams.
Okay then. So no fantasy today, João, right?
No, it's too soon after the race to have fantasy, so we'll have to have a look at it next.
In any case,
weekend.
I won.
Next race weekend.
I won. It was great, João. I did so well this weekend.
Also, no casino because we don't have any odds this season for some reason. Or this weekend for the Brazilian Grand Prix.
No.
Yeah, we can't find any odds, so no casino
Can
either.
you send me some money just in case?
So we go straight to
João,
what matters.
João, let me just tell you something. For Brazil, I'm going to use the Mega Driver because it's a sprint race. So reminding all our listeners that and the guys playing Fantasy League with us that there's sprint race next weekend. And I'm putting my Mega Driver on Russell as well.
Is that a bonus for how many people he takes out of the race, or what? I don't know. Like I just feel it's too dull putting on Verstappen.
George,
I'm trying something different here.
I agree. Send it.
So let's see what happens.
You go.
Okay. Esbardalhanço, João.
You go for it.
Oh, it is in English. Esbardalhanço.
What's that?
Shunt of the week, I think, is the best term.
Is it? But does it really translate well to esbardalhanço?
No, there's no word that translates to esbardalhanço, sadly. But no, there's no such thing. Shunt of the week this week takes us all the way to Australia, to the Gold Coast 500 from the finale of the V8 Supercar season.
Oh, hell yeah, brother.
Where it's a street race. It looks a lot like a street race. But they've decided to put a couple of chicanes in the middle of a long straight, and which is fine, it spices things up. However, they decided to put these kind of tire barriers on the apex of the chicane, but nothing on the inside of the chicane. So if you wanted to cut it straight, you just fly over the curbs, which is great. If you wanted to take the chicane, you would just go on the inside of the tire barriers, or like a couple of the guys did. If you're not decided what you want to do, if you want to go straight or take the corner, you just slam straight into the tire barriers. You then relocate those tire barriers from the apex of the corner to the middle of the track, meaning that the cars coming behind collect those tires, and you create a massive pileup with burning cars and a lot of broken bodywork and suspensions and everything.
They're called variable walls. You just punt them and move them around and send other drivers into the shadow realm with them. That was impressive, man. Like the onboard from that, you just watch it, you're like, no. 11 cars later, it's so unbelievably. It looks like something off of one of those cheap action films where they're like, fuck.
It's good.
I think I remember when Bernie had some ideas to spice up Formula One, which is like kind of changing track geometry. This is what they're doing. They're just changing track geometry.
You know, when like you have like in the UK they call it the high street, you know, the popular street in the city center, and there's the movable bollard that comes out of the pavement. You know, it's just like one of these that comes up in the middle of the racing line. That's what this looked like. It was just fucking random. And then Michael Massey's over there with the button.
You just go like and activate that like as a defense mechanism for the car behind.
Yeah. Or it's
like DRS, but inverted DRS.
Yeah, like, you know, like in Formula E, you go like on the side to get the
overtake
booster.
Mode. Yeah.
But on this case, like you will go on the part of the track to activate the pillar, you know, behind you, and then lift that thing up.
Wow. It could be like fan boost where you vote for whoever you want to punt off the track.
Yeah, I mean, what comes next? Like flamethrowers on the side?
Oh my God.
Could be.
And that's
anyway,
it.
Go check out this video.
So
it's
good.
Absolutely fantastic. It's fantastic.
Another crash from Australia.
Go check it out.
Australia, mate.
And it's not Ricardo this time.
They know how to do it.
I'm just waiting for a mate. I'm just waiting for a mate. Nutty. Absolutely nutty.
Okay, guys. I think that's it.
All right.
It was a great episode where we managed to talk some solid almost 1 hour, or like well over 1 hour.
About a race that had nothing. Yeah, it was really
the vibes were high. Vibes were high.
Nothing, you know?
Big vibes.
This is how you create content, João.
Anyway.
Learning with the best.
Exactly. Speaking of which, don't forget to follow Blake on all of the socials. We'll put them all in this episode description.
Thank you so much.
But it's Brrrake with 5 R's?
3 R's. B-R-R-R-A-K. It's 3.
3 R's.
Yeah. See.
Okay. There you go. Follow him on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch.
It's Brrrake
OnlyFans.
It's Brrrake F1 on YouTube and TikTok, and then Brrrake on everything else. Yeah, that's what links are good for.
Follow him. His content is epic.
Thank you.
If you like F1 and if you like a bit of data analysis, it's pretty awesome. So you
imagine getting to the end of this podcast and being like, you know what? I don't even like Formula One. Why have I been listening to this?
To these idiots chatting shit.
Mission accomplished, you know? Mission accomplished.
Oh my God. You guys have been bamboozled so hard. You don't even like Formula One and you're here.
Okay, guys.
To be honest, I think that most of our most faithful listeners don't actually like Formula One. It's like people chatting about shit.
Nah, that's not true, João. That's not true.
Otherwise, if they like Formula One, they wouldn't like.
We've got this covered then. This is market domination for that sector of the podcasting market.
Yeah, that niche is covered. We've smashed it.
Nailed it, bro. Thank you very much for having me, guys.
You're very welcome, Blake. Come back whenever you want.
Anytime.
Joining us.
See you. Have a great week. Tenham uma boa semana. Adeus.
Até daqui a 15 dias no Brasil, né?
Isso. No Brasil com o sotaque frota de João Ginete. Não esquecer. Está prometido.
Is that a podium, boys? Is that a podium? That's a podium.
Last place at the end of lap 1 comes home to win.
What the is this guy doing? Well, I just want to say you're an absolute legend. Holy mac and cheese balls. That's another podium.
That was stupid for whoever was at the front. They want to kill us or what?
Can you believe it? Can you believe it?